Welcome, everybody, to the WMMA Math Podcast, brought to you by WombatSports.com. I'm Mark the Q. I'm your host. I'm very privileged to have a fighter I know very well. She, once in a while, co-hosts over on my Somewhere in Vegas podcast. She's a very up-and-coming fighter, as well as a very talented singer. And she has a fight coming up a week from Friday on February 22nd at Tuff-n-uff over in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm very privileged to have Chelsea Rae on with us right now. How you doing, Chelsea?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, obviously the training's going very well. I know that you've been training out with Jess. You actually were out in Australia as part of your training camp, correct?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Was that your first time? Was that the first time to Australia?
It was. Yeah, it's somewhere I've always wanted to go. You know, since they hosted the Olympics back in 2000, I thought that was a really cool place. And I was also a really big fan of the crocodile hunter growing up. Was really bummed out when he was killed, but. Yeah, so it was really cool to go out there. The food's amazing. Jessica Rose Clark, my housemate and coach, so we went out there. She had a bunch of seminars to teach, and I'm in camp, so I got a chance to kind of tag along and not only learn from her, but some of her coaches that she had trained with early on in her career, which was really cool, really eye-opening. It showed me where a lot of her foundation came from, you know, which was really interesting. That's kind of the fun of martial arts is lineage, I think. And so it was kind of neat to see those pieces of her game come up, and I was getting them from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So it was great. The weather over there was incredible. My goal now in life is to live 3 months out of the year in Australia, because when it's winter here, I'd rather be there. So.
Yeah, I was figuring that the weather might be a little bit better down there as well. I mean, you know, Australia is still a growing scene. It seemed like there was like a big, huge, like renaissance in terms of, Jess around that time. Beck, I think, right before her. And Alex Chambers was kind of a pioneer because she was before those two. But yeah, it's interesting now that we haven't seen as many Australian female fighters, come out of the area. But I think that we might have another round of them coming up. As it comes. So, fingers crossed on that as well. I mean, how was it for you to kind of, to train some of the Australian fighters down there?
It was amazing. We got a chance to go to this Jujitsu Camp. So straight Jujitsu, mostly gi, which was run by a friend of ours, Jess Frazier, who's she's created Australian Girls in Gis, which is kind of like this. She runs camps every year and does a lot of seminars for it and stuff like that, but it's kind of like a place that girls can go and learn jiu-jitsu together and have training partners that are their size. And so, Jessie was a teacher for that. She taught wrestling that week, and I got a chance to meet all these girls, meet Alex Chambers as well, and roll with all these girls. And the culture was so cool. Jess Frazier has really created an incredible community and an opportunity for these girls, because it is smaller in Australia and it's still technically small around the globe, and so to have a chance to get together with other females is really cool. And it was just really special. And then getting to go to these other gyms and meet some of these other fighters, it's just fighting's a universal language, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter where you are, we kind of all share this thing together, and that's the beautiful part of it.
Yeah, shout out Girls in Gis, has places everywhere around the globe. Here in the United States, I know there's a huge Girls in Gis organization down in Texas, so I'll see them once in a while posting seminars. I think there's some couple seminars I saw in Colorado. So yeah, they're starting to really make some headway, which is nice. It helps in terms of getting the word out, and it's going to be helping the future of the women's divisions as well. So it's really great to be able to see that. It's kind of encouraging some of these girls to want to take up combat sports. So it's really great to be able to see that as well. You talk a little bit about traveling. Obviously, you went to Australia, but you were traveling for quite a while to different gyms across the country and different training with different fighters as well. I mean, how has it been for you to have be in Vegas and have settled down there?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. When I set out to do this, I never wanted to just be a girl on the roster. I never wanted to just be another fighter. I wanted to be the champion of the world in my weight class, and I wanted to leave the sport better than I came into it. You know, we've had, it's not been very long that women have been able to be on the big stage, so I don't take that lightly. I really feel a responsibility to carry the torch, you know, with people like, you know, Rhonda, Shayna Baszler, you know, the list goes on, women that have come ahead of me that have taken arrows in the back and had to really fight to just even be in the gym. You know, I can't be more thankful. So my job now is to, like I said, carry the torch and make it easier for these next girls that are coming up. And so to be out here in Vegas and finally get a chance to really kind of sink in and be with the same group of people has been, you know, has helped me grow exponentially. And, you know, I've just really enjoyed myself out here, to be honest. The weather's always nice for the most part, and everything is just kind of about fighting. It's really cheap to live out here, so it's very conducive to the lifestyle, that's for sure.
Yeah, not to mention jobs and all that as well. I mean, it's relatively easy to get a job in Vegas right now, and you know, one that'll work around your schedule, because there's some people that work late at night and they can train during the day, or you know, or work early in the morning and then you'll go to training at then. So it's really kind of conducive to that as well. And you know,
Yeah.
and just the fact that there's so many gyms in the area too. I believe you're still over at Syndicate. Just to have so many options for gyms in terms of your training, and some people even just do more than one gym as well to kind of train all that as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually not over at Syndicate any longer. I've ventured out and doing some other stuff, but it's working out well for me, and I'm enjoying my training a lot. So that's all been a good change of gears.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's, you know, and that's the thing too. I mean, you know, like I said, there's quite a few gyms in the area, and you can always, take a little from one thing and a little bit from the other, or you can kind of be dedicated to one gym. So sometimes it's just, just not a right fit. And I think, especially you always were looking for some kind of fit where you kind of fit in to when it comes to training and all that as well. I mean, it's been interesting to see where you kind of head in. With all that in mind, I mean, obviously you've kind of gained a lot of different experiences from different gyms and all that as well. I mean, that has made you probably a quite different fighter than most people probably expect, right?
Yeah, I've had an opportunity to figure out a lot of what doesn't work, right off the bat, which I think is just as important as figuring out what does work. It's kind of learning mixed martial arts is kind of like having a big piece of stone, and you're constantly chipping at it to find, a more refined version of what you're going for. But that's what I was getting at earlier, is that, I set out to find the team for me, the coach for me. And, I've taken in a lot of perspective from people who have come before me, and, what they had to say was, there's no perfect coach. There's a right coach for you, and that doesn't even mean that right coach is going to be for all time. It might be for 3 months. It might be for 3 years. You outgrow people, or you develop, things, styles and stuff like that. And the sport is always evolving. So if you're not involved with a group that understands that, then it becomes hard to kind of keep up, and I never want to stop growing in any capacity. So I've been looking for people who are progressive, who understand that part of the game, who understand the business behind the game. And, I've just jumped in with both feet and looked for that. And luckily have found that in Jessie. She's been an incredible teammate, who's really taken me under her wing as somebody that's trained longer than I have. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. And, her style was very similar to a style I was trying to create for myself. So it's been really great working right next to her. And, she's an incredible, but maybe an even equally or better coach, and she loves it, and that's clear. And, she takes the time to really understand how to teach per individual rather than trying to kind of slap one style on each person. She understands what makes each person tick and delivers every time. So it's been a lot of fun working with her.
Yeah, I think that there's a perception that there has to be loyalty in terms of gyms, and a fighter that I happen to know. I mean, I'm originally from Montana, and some of the fighters up in Montana, they get to a point where they're doing really, really great, but there's only so much that you can get at a certain gym before you have to think about going to a bigger gym just because you want to grow as a fighter. A lot of the fighters up in Montana end up going to Arizona to train down there, but it's one of those things where I think that, there is a kind of misconception that if you stay with what you got, who you're successful with, but you ultimately have to grow. You ultimately have to grow, grow up and become a better fighter. And there's resources that some gyms have that they don't have. There's different mindsets and different choices with coaches and all that as well.
Sorry, it cut out. Say that one more time.
I was saying that there's a little bit of growth in terms of you're talking about the idea of growth in fighters, and I was saying that there's some resources that and some mindsets you're talking about coaching. There's just some mindsets that change. You change as a fighter overall. You change as a person overall in terms of it. So it's just one of those things where somebody has a misconception about how loyalty and having to stay with the same coach for all your career, and it's not always that's not always the case.
Did I lose you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So loyalty is a huge part of my character as just a human being, and so I take that everywhere that I go. Yes, I've moved through gyms. However, like I said, I was looking for something specific, and sometimes I relate it to relationships, dating. So you go out with somebody, you think they're great. 3 months down the road, maybe they're not great, or maybe you're like, oh, okay, we don't share the same vision. And then it's time to move on because ultimately you're the only person who has to live with you the rest of your life, and this is a short game. And if you want to hit your goals, then you're going to have to continue to move. It's been a hard decision every time I've left somewhere, that I've enjoyed being. People are people and things change. And it's not even necessarily, like I still have good relationships with a lot of different people that I've moved on from. It's not necessarily that, and like I said, it's strange almost to think that people would think that you would be able to have one coach only coach you for something that's like, I relate it to track, right? You're a decathlete or a heptathlete. You've got 7 to 10 plus coaches teaching you each event, and this is a sport of many arts. So why would I have one person trying to teach me everything? There's no possible way one human is going to be able to coach you through all of that. There's just not even time in your life to get all that knowledge, especially with how new this sport is. So I just don't necessarily agree with it. If you're doing, things that you shouldn't do, that's different. But, I've always come to the table as a hard worker and respected all my teammates and my coaches. And, if something's not working out, then you move on and stay loyal to yourself. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, it's just you're developing as a fighter and all that as well, and you gotta kind of understand that if you're at a certain point in time where you're just not getting what you need out of the coaching, then to move on, and so it's just a really interesting scenario that people need to start thinking about in terms of when somebody says, oh, I'm leaving a gym. You don't think they always think it's always on bad terms. It's not always on bad terms. It's just that they want something a little bit more.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the fight. I mean, obviously, fighting for Tuff-n-uff, I think it's really great in terms of a career. I always say that it's probably the one organization that people need to fight for because so many people, so many successful female fighters have fought out of Tuff-n-uff. Ronda fought out of Tuff-n-uff. Sorry, I'm blanking. But a bunch of the
Duke, a lot of people. Yeah,
a lot of people. A lot of the Invicta fighters came from Tuff-n-uff as well.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's one of the top. It's been the top premier amateur organization in the world for a very long time. They were the ones that kind of kick-started the idea of amateur female divisions. And I've always had much respect with Tuff-n-uff as well. So, what does it mean to you to be a part of this card and to be able to fight on the